We're back again. And the news is Bruce is gone. Finally. Just the three of us tonight. The Bruce sympathisers have stayed at home in the shape of Martin and Chris. A lot of them coming out of the woodwork today. I had it myself later on at work. People pinging me going, oh, it's sad about Bruce and no, he might never work again now. And yeah, he could have gone in the summer and he would have got a job somewhere else. Anyway, he's gone. He's not our problem anymore. That's the main thing. So what do you make of the news, lads?
Go on, Pete.
No, I'll let you go first. You're above me tonight, so
look, I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. I was just about to head out with a family this morning and got that just pinged up on my phone, and I had to double take. I genuinely didn't expect it, because I tell you what, earlier on in the morning there was something out from the Northern Echo. Is it Scott Wilson, I think, that said that there'd been no conversation and that he was expected to take the Palace game. And I just felt deflated. So seeing that ping up just completely changed my mood. 100%. I'm buzzing, and I'm buzzing for a few reasons. I'm buzzing because it's actually happened. You know, we knew it was going to happen at some point, but now it's actually happened. We've waited a couple of weeks longer than what we expected to wait, but it's done. So I'm happy that it's out there, it's finished, it's completed, and that he's left the club officially. The other reason why I'm really happy about it and I'm buzzing about it is because it's the next phase of the cleansing process, and I tweeted that out today. For us right now, it's a cleansing process of the club. We got the owner out. Okay, we got all the baggage that comes with having that owner in charge of our club. He's gone. First and foremost, now the manager that we wanted out is gone, and that was the next phase, because it was starting to become a little bit toxic again with him still being at the club. So we're slowly but surely cleansing the club again and getting back to what we see our club being. And what I'm hoping to find now is that there's a real sort of buzz around the place with the players, with the remaining coaching staff, and hopefully what we see on the back of that is a much better performance on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm in the same sort of box as yourself. I think obviously it's the next box that needed ticking after the consortium took over. Obviously, Ashley gone, Bruce gone. It's just the last box to tick, really put a closure on it, is get the Sports Direct signs down around the ground and get Charlie and the other two Steves off the wage bill as well. But obviously there's pressing matters that need to be sorted first. So yeah, it was about time. He's come out in a statement and said he doesn't. They call it Luke Edwards anyway. That he doesn't think that he'll take another job soon. He's not looking for one because of the stress on his family and stuff like that. Do you know? I think the one thing we're going to say about Steve Bruce is nobody wanted him to start with. It was a terrible appointment by Mike Ashley. I think all of us would turn on and say that at the very, very start, we were there and gave him the benefit of the doubt, had to try and get behind him. But I think you can't justify a lot of the stuff he's done along the way. You can't criticise the fans. You can't not know what team he's setting up on a week-to-week basis, or the manager with the alleged experience that he has. And I think it was just, we all knew it was a matter of time for when this takeover came through. And yeah, it took probably a week longer than some fans wanted, but as we all know, we've discussed numerous times, it's a gradual process. You can't just kick off the coach, and everyone was presuming that Steve Clements and Steve Agnew would go as well. It looks like they're obviously staying on an interim basis at the moment to help Graham Jones on. Hopefully, there isn't any ramifications to any ill will between the three of them, and obviously Graham Jones being the newer of the three of them. Hopefully they're going to work well with him still for the Palace game and not cause any ructions or anything like that. But I think it's literally onwards and upwards now, and a little bit more optimism possibly for the Palace game. And I think there's a lot more beef there, and I think Pete will probably cover it tomorrow on away days when they've got the Palace fan base on, to discuss the article in regards to the vote on Monday for the sponsored deals and who the main instigator was, which I was pretty surprised with reading today, was Steve Parish, believe it or not. So that's something you possibly could bring up, Pete, tomorrow. But yeah, it'll add a little bit more spice to the game on Saturday.
That's a good point, lads. Because I was when I was reading the news today and stuff, I didn't see that the other two Steves were gone as well. So yeah, you're saying that they're not gone. I think they're actually probably worse than Bruce, to tell you the truth. Like what if you think, what do they do? Because their job is to coach. But it was only when Graham Jones came in last, the time he came in, that we had a change in fortunes, and we put everything down to the coaching that Graham Jones are doing. So what do they do? Whatever about Bruce. What I think that's why I put them in a worse bracket than Bruce. But anyway, time will come, they'll be gone too. Okay, they need someone to hold the fort. I know for the next couple of days until a proper team comes into place. And of course, yeah, as we mentioned, Graham Jones, yeah, he's in the dugout for the game on Saturday, which shall be interesting. See, does he change it up a bit? Does he give someone else a run out? What kind of formation he goes with? Pete, you wanted to bring up a topic on ASM and some of his tweets. We go to that?
Yeah, definitely. So what I found really, really interesting today, and please correct me if I'm wrong, ASM seems to be the only player really that's come out and said anything in particular remotely towards Steve Bruce and the fact that he's left the club. Now, it was a very sort of detailed response from Alan St-Maximin. It's what we've come to expect in the way in which he communicates on social media, particularly with Newcastle fans. He's very, very good at that. And, typically Alan St-Maximin is very, very respectful in his choice of words with regards to Steve Bruce. Whether the fans agree with that or not is another matter. But there was a couple of things that were really, really interesting about that, because obviously, nobody really expected him to come out with anything like that. Certainly positive about Steve Bruce, because I think it's been highlighted that we've been looking to get rid of him for a while. But obviously, he talked in a very, very positive light, which was one thing. And a lot of people are kind of saying, why has he done that? A lot of fans are saying, well, why is he talking about Bruce? He's not done anything for, the team. The team are not playing well. The way he structured the team is not great. But I think with Alan St-Maximin, it goes a little bit deeper than that. Now, if you look at Alan St-Maximin's last couple of managers before he came to Newcastle, was Patrick Vieira at Nice, and then before that was Lucien Favre at Nice as well. And neither manager particularly had a good relationship with him. I'm not saying they hated each other, they didn't not like each other, but they didn't necessarily have a good relationship. And I think it was down to the fact in the way in which Alan St-Maximin plays. He's a maverick. He does his own thing. He's very much individual to anybody else on the football pitch in the way in which he plays. But the difference between how he is at Newcastle compared to how he is or how he was at Nice is the fact that actually the one person that actually trusted Alan St-Maximin and gave him the license to be the player that he wanted to be was Steve Bruce. And I think that's why Alan St-Maximin's never, ever said a bad word about Steve Bruce. Even when there was talk last season, this time last year, that there was a bit of a bust-up between them. He's always been respectful towards him. He's always, spoke positively about him. And I think that's the reason, is that he's been allowed at Newcastle under Steve Bruce to play the way that he's wanted to, compared to the other managers previously. Now, you could argue that the other two managers are much better than Bruce, and I'll be inclined to agree with that. But he's been able to showcase his abilities in the way in which he's wanted to in the Premier League to really get his name out there. So I think that's where a lot of the thanks is come from Alan St-Maximin. The interesting part now and I'm sure we're going to get into this in a second with regards to who will replace Alan Saint-Maximin. I imagine that there's a little bit of apprehension.
Bruce, replace Bruce. We're keeping ASM.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. Jesus Christ, no. Alan Saint-Maximin is there anyway. Obviously, the manager that comes in and replaces Steve Bruce next. Alan Saint-Maximin's maybe, and I'm just kind of preempting his thoughts right now, maybe thinking, you know, is this manager going to allow me to play in the same way that I have under Steve Bruce? Now, he may be a little bit apprehensive, he may be a little bit nervous about the next appointment, because if there's a next appointment that comes in that plays in a tactical way that doesn't suit Alan Saint-Maximin, is he going to, be able to play as many matches as he does at the moment? Is he going to be able to be the focal point of the team? And two, you know, is he going to be able to perform in the same way that he has certainly this season in the team? And I think there's maybe a little bit of worry there, and I think that's where a lot of the responses from Alan Saint-Maximin about Steve Bruce is come from. So I'm really, really interested to see how he develops under a new manager in the weeks and months to come, because I think that will tell us a lot about where his career is going. We've had players before that have not been able to settle into, that have been fantastic players, but not been able to settle into a tactical formation in certain teams. You look at Hatem Ben Arfa as being one of them, who was a fantastically individual player that really relished and performed under Alan Pardew. But then any club that he went to after that was always good for a period of time, but never consistently in the way that he was under Alan Pardew at Newcastle, because he found a way of making it work. So this will tell us a lot about Alan Saint-Maximin and where his career is going in the weeks and months to come, based on what manager comes in. So I just thought that was really, really interesting, and I just read a little bit deeper into his comments more than it just being a tweet.
See, I think what I took from it, Pete, was, and to be fair, a lot of people, you know, in football and stuff, have always said that Steve Bruce is a cracking guy. And if you look at that, and there's a lot of people said he's a good manager, you know, how he is with the players and stuff like that. So that's pretty much portrayed with what ASM said in his tweet. He hasn't said he's a bad coach, you know, that he said he's a good person, and obviously did a lot for him at the club and stuff like that. And I think that just pretty much reiterates what everyone said about him, whether you like him or not, from the day at the club. And do you know what? He has got a good relationship, and you know what? Fair dues to him for saying it. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, and there's probably some players in that dressing room who are glad to see the back of him and stuff like that. But hats off to ASM for sticking to his guns. A lot of, you know, he does hold a lot of weight on NUFC Twitter. You know, a lot of followers. He does a lot for the local community and stuff. So, you know, perhaps people will take a little bit of note of that and just say, right, okay, that chapter's closed now. Let's not give him any more stick and stuff like that, and just see what happens. But I think one of the interesting things will be is who comes in, and will they give him the same sort of license to roam type thing that Bruce did, or are they going to be more regimental, and you know, you have a role and you need to do this and stuff? Because I think what someone needs to realise is, at this moment in time, especially until January, we've probably relied on two players to try and get us out of this mess, attacking wise. Callum Wilson and ASM, obviously. So I don't think we need to push up push them the wrong way at the minute. But obviously, I think it's something that you know, hopefully the coach that comes in will work with them and get on with them and stuff like that. But I think that's one of the reasons possibly why they haven't looked at Lucien Favre, because they don't really necessarily know what that relationship's like. As you said, Pete, no one's saying they had a bad relationship, but obviously he likes to, with Favre, you know, he's very set in stone. It's his way. You have to abide by it. And he does spit his dummy out occasionally, which, to be fair, there's a lot of people that dressing room would probably need that at the minute. So that's possibly one of the reasons why they haven't gone for him before. But also, as we mentioned off screen, that he's probably not the sort of coach that you'd want under a director of football, because he likes to do his own way. So I think it'll be either one of the other two candidates, Fonseca or Howe. But obviously, we'll touch on that a bit more in depth in a minute.
Just to add on your point there before Daz comes in, is that Alistair Maximin has always stressed that he is a number 10 and that he wants to play through the middle. Now we always talk about, certainly on social media, we talk about Alistair Maximin. Yeah, he needs to play on the left, he needs to play on the left. Actually, whenever he's played well for us, he's played his best football on the right. And I've always kind of argued that he should be starting on the right because he has the ability to go both ways. When he plays on the left, he's quite limited in terms of, he'll run down, he'll cut inside onto the right, they'll double up on him, and he tends to lose the ball quite easily. On the right, he's a little bit more open. Through the middle, he's unpredictable. And Rowan made a good point earlier on one of the comments further up. He's put Steve Bruce played towards ASM strengths by sticking him up front on his own. And you could argue that he's not a forward and he's not playing up front, but actually what that allowed him to do is play through the middle. And I can talk from example of being at the Watford game where he played through the middle and he was making runs down the left and the right. The defenders didn't know whether to track him, whether to stay in their position. He was pulling them left and right. So he clearly wants to play in the middle. So it's whether a new manager comes in and says, you know what, you're my guy in the middle. You're going to play number 10 for me. This is what I want you to do, and actually coach him to play him in a certain way. So it could actually work out for the best. But I'm just kind of being, I'm just kind of sitting on the fence to see, what maybe could happen either way, depending on what manager comes in. So I think it'd be quite interesting just to see how that unfolds, because he is our main man, he's our main spark. He makes the difference, something very simple, but it's something he's developed in his game. When he had the ball on the right hand side, normally he'd just run at a defender. This time he just slips the ball into Manquillo. Manquillo puts the ball in. Wilson scores. He's just developed that element of his game that actually makes the team play better.
Cool. Maybe I'm going to do a few things before I forget them. One, I want to say to Dave Shepherd in the chat. I know it's an awful time to be sick, but at the same time, Dave, look at the bright side. There's a lot happening and a lot to keep you entertained over the couple of days. So I'm not going to say enjoy it, but enjoy it, Dave. Then just a few people in the chat are also mentioned about the show last night. We really enjoyed the show with Keith last night. It was only a couple of hours ago it was on, and we did stay on chatting for up to about an hour after that, and more stories with Keith. Great crack. And hopefully we do get him back on again, and hopefully he does come back at some point onto the Fab Four matters as well. Also, just a reminder to people, I know everyone in the chat has already subscribed, so I'm talking to the wall here, but go to youtube.com/c/loadedhq, or click that subscribe button. And also, before we get on to the other topic that we want to talk about, I just want to shout out to Centre Ale and to the only Bruce that's left now, Bruce in. And pity we don't have Chris here, but I'm sure he'll look at that back this because Chris actually paid a visit to Centre Ale. So just to prove that it is, I know Judy was there, but Chris was also there at the weekend. So wearing his Avon bag, as you'll see, can't go anywhere without that. And I didn't get an answer to my question, but I presume this is Bruce. Did we get an answer to that one?
I don't think we did, but
no, I thought we did. No.
Martin will confirm. Martin's in the chat. He'll know. But that Centre Ale for everything. They have everything there you could ever need. So that's a shout out to Centre Ale. So let's get on to our next part of our show, because we're going to keep it short enough tonight. We've a lot more shows coming up as well during the week. So topic is, what next? Where do we go? We've got rid of the weakest link. Where do we go next? So these are the leading contenders at the moment, as you'll all know. So Paulo Fonseca, Eddie Howe, and Lucien Favre. So I'm going to go first, right? Because you're going to give them more coaches kind of insight into it, lads. You're going to more depth. I'm only a football manager coach on the PC. So I'd be happy with any of the three of them. It's an improvement on Bruce. Paulo Fonseca. I will give my reservations maybe on each of them, because I won't even go into the positives. I'm just going to give the reservations. But my only worry is when Portuguese managers, as I've seen in the past, they start really well and then fade. There's been a few of them. They're kind of like mini Jose Mourinho's, or Jose Mourinho wannabes. Even Jose Mourinho is a Jose Mourinho wannabe these days. But is he going to come in and start really well and then fade? I'm just trying to think outside the box on these. Eddie Howe, yeah, he's seen as like a brilliant coach, and we'll see how he would work with Graham Jones. But we probably don't need another coach, because we've got we'll need extra coaches, but we have got a great coach in Graham Jones. We need that manager that can get something out of the bunch of players we have now, and especially in the next games until January. And then Lucien Favre, who I've read that he's kind of more of a defensive kind of manager, but I know, Richie, you'll probably touch into more details on what you've read about him as well, and how because I think you were saying that he mightn't work with the director of football, and that is the model that we're going to. So who would like to go first and talk about 3 options?
Go on, Pete, you start, mate.
Okay. So, look, if you're looking at the win percentages of each manager, you've got, in third place, you've got Eddie Howe. It's got a 39.9 win percentage. You've got Lucien Favre, who's got a 49% win percentage, and then you've got Paulo Fonseca, that's got a 54% win percentage. So if you're looking at that, Paulo Fonseca is obviously ahead with regards to that. Obviously, you can question about the leagues that he's played in or managed in. You know, with Shakhtar in the Ukrainian league, you know, would you say that's an elite league? That's up for debate, but he's, you know, I think his win percentage at Shakhtar was something like 74%, something crazy. So, you know, he's proven that his style of management and his tactics do work at the teams that he's been at. And he was probably a little bit unlucky to be kind of edged out and pushed out by Mourinho. I think it was Mourinho that decided that actually I want to manage Roma, and Roma just said, "Yeah, we'll have you, Fonseca, right, you go," and just kind of like got rid of him. But so the 3 managers there, you know, look, they're all, for one, considerably better than Steve Bruce, and would bring something different to the table. 1 would be organisation, and 2 would be an identity. They all have an identity and all have a style of play, something that we've been absolutely lacking for 2 and a bit years now. So they'll all be good. I mean, for me, it's very, very simple. If you're looking at a short-term deal, I would do so. For example, if you're looking at a short-term deal to the end of this season, I would be looking at Eddie Howe to take over the role to the end of the season to try and keep us up, move on, and then we rebuild with another manager. Okay, so that's for me. If you're looking at a short-term deal, now this is all very much dependent on the owners and what their vision is. If you're looking at a longer term, so maybe a more sort of short to medium term management, because I think all 3 of these managers are no more than a short to medium term. I think after that point, where, you know, and I talk about that's a 2-year period, because I would look to be getting onto a more of a elite manager by then, particularly if we're moving up the ranks. I would be then looking at the likes of Paulo Fonseca and then Lucien Favre in that order. In terms of taking the role of that job on a longer term. I wouldn't have Eddie Howe on a longer term. I would have had Eddie Howe under Mike Ashley, because I think he would have made us play better. I would have Eddie Howe now only because of the predicament that we're in. But if we're looking longer term, Paulo Fonseca and Lucien Favre, for me, are the 2 managers that I would be going for. And I think their win records are there to prove it. Now, they play very different styles of football, but I think they would be the ones to go through to be able to take this club forward. And more importantly, with the players that we'd be looking to try and sign, it's the attracting them to the club. And having a manager like Paulo Fonseca that's been successful elsewhere in Europe and in the Champions League, and with Lucien Favre, who's had a fantastic, experience at Dortmund as well as other clubs, they are bigger names that would attract bigger players to the club, and not just bigger names in attracting bigger players, European players as well. So if we're looking at getting top level European players to come over and play for us, they are more likely to attract and wanting to come over here rather than Eddie Howe, because there's a chance that those guys maybe wouldn't know who he was. That's, for me, that's split between the two. Okay, a long term and a longer to, or short to medium term, and a short term manager.
Yeah, there's pluses and minuses, positives and negatives to all the candidates, really, isn't it? So, I think we touched on the one about Lucien Favre earlier, and it looks as though we're going to have either a sporting director or a director of football. He's a very old school sort of coach and likes to have full control, a bit like Rafa wanted to when he was in charge. So I can't see Favre being here. I just can't see him being the appointment for it. Yes, I think, as we touched on it, he would come in and I think he would do a job for us. But with the structure that the club want to go down, I just can't see him fitting that. Now, with the other two, both are fantastic coaches in their own right. Now, obviously, over here, Eddie Howe, he's well thought of in the English game. He's got a good name. He was touted around some big clubs when he was at Bournemouth. Hasn't really gone that way since he left Bournemouth. Obviously, nearly took the job at Celtic in the summer, but then backed out at the last minute. There is that link with some of the staff that we've got: Graham Jones, Callum Wilson, Matt Ritchie, Ryan Fraser. So that bodes well as well. I think that if you were looking to strengthen the squad in January with the English core and Premier League experienced players, then that they wouldn't be. I don't think Eddie Howe would undeter players to come to the club in January if that was the case. So that's another strength to that bow as well. I know Pete put a fantastic tweet out yesterday from the Bournemouth Twitter page from 2019. I think it was the La Manga training camp in pre-season. It gave just a 2-minute snippet of what he's like as a coach and how vocal he is, how much he gets involved, and how clear and concise he is when he's putting directions across to the player and what he's expected of them. And it's a fantastic little insight how he could work on the field with obviously with what we've got at the moment. So they're the positives. For how the negative out is, I can't see him being here as Pete mentioned as a long-term option. I really think with the type of caliber of players we're probably looking to go towards in the future, the foreign imports that you're coming, I really can't see bigger name players being attracted to want to come and play for Eddie Howe. I think you could still probably get them in, but unfortunately, I think you'd probably end up having to pay them a bit more wages to get them to play there. Unfortunately, which, yes, okay, we've got a lot of money, and people will say, "Oh, money's not really the end all be all and end all sort of thing." But at the end of the day, I would rather have a player that comes and wants to play for the cause, play for the club, and to take less money rather than come and pay for double the money and play for Eddie Howe. Because at the end of the day, is he going to respect the coach he's going to play for? Can he respect what the coach is going to have to say? So I think that's one of the issues that we would have with Eddie Howe. Regards Paulo Fonseca, in my eyes, I believe he will be the favourite out of the three candidates that are left, mainly because of his experience that he's had in Europe, his win rate percentage, his intelligence in the game. There's a tweet on NUFC Gallagher, for anyone who's interested, where they actually posted a coaching set of how Fonseca likes to work, what type of formations, how he gets it through, and how it works. If you've got 5-10 minutes to read it, go and have a look. It's on NUFC Gallagher, and it's a fantastic read into how he likes his teams to play on the attack, how he gets defensive cover if someone moves forward and stuff like that. It's a really, really good site to have a look at that. I think one thing we haven't mentioned as well in regards to Paulo Fonseca, while at Shakhtar, he actually beat Man City in the Champions League as well. So we know that he is capable of doing a job against the elite in this country as well. Obviously, he's going to have to start with the players that we've got now. I don't know how many of them he'll be aware of and know about. But obviously, that's I've got to be realistic, lad. I don't, he's just been working for Roma and stuff like that. We've got some fantastic players, but I know
he won't know who Henrik and Kraft are, and that Richie plays as our left back, and.
No, I think if you realistically, I think the only ones who's probably realistically they're going to know are possibly the internationals in the squad. You're going to look at Dubravka. You'll know Shah as well. Obviously, everyone seems to know who obviously Alan Saint-Maximin is. You imagine you'll know Almiron from being a Paraguay national. You'll know Callum Wilson. He's been an England national as well. Even down to stuff like Ryan Fraser, Matt Ritchie, you might know them because obviously they're Scottish internationals as well. So. You hope he's going to be able to come in and work with the players that we've already got. But I think with the ability he's got from his experience abroad, I think he will allow us to attract better overseas play in the market. Like everyone knows who Paulo Fonseca is, full stop, from his playing career as well and his managerial career. So I think English players will want to play for him. Foreign players will want to play for him. He'll also work well under the director of football, if that's the way we go down, because he seems to be the sort of coach that is willing to learn as he's going on as well, and he'll take on board anything that's going on. And if people like Louis Campos, Ralph Rangnick, I think there's the guy that used to be at PSG, Henrique, is it, Pete? Have been taught about as a director of football. All similar, very, very well coached, and the philosophies that they actually have at their clubs have been fantastic wherever they've been. So if we can get someone like that, and then I imagine Paulo Fonseca will happily work in that sort of model. So that's why I'm probably thinking of analysing the three coaches. He's probably the strongest of the three in my eyes after looking at all three of them in detail.
So Richie, you've gone for Fonseca. Pete, you've gone for Eddie Howe. And I'm going to go for... No, I'm not going to say Favre. I'm going to go for Fonseca as well. Fair enough. Before we leave and wrap up things as well, I want to tell people about... or Pete, you're going to tell people about... I'll remove this so you can see properly. Our show tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so we're back with another away days. We're lucky to have a representative from Crystal Palace. So from Back of the Net podcast will be joining us. So Dee will be joining us from Back of the Net podcast at 7 o'clock on our channel. So I'll be lucky enough to share her channel at 1 o'clock. So I'll send a link out for that, and then she'll be joining us on Loaded Mag at 7 o'clock tomorrow. So we'll be talking all things Newcastle and Crystal Palace, looking at players and potential outcomes of the game. So it's always an interesting talk. It's always a good chat with opposition fans. It's why we do it. It's just to get a feel from their perspective of how they see our club and how they see the result going, and we can obviously talk about things from our point of view. And I think it'll be quite nice talking about the game coming up on Saturday, knowing that Bruce is not going to be there, because I think there'll be maybe one or two surprises. I don't know if you guys saw the training pictures today. That have come out. I always kind of get a feeling for the training pictures as to what might be happening, and I don't know for sure. I always have a look at it, but Fabian Shaw was quite front and centre for a few of those pictures, and he hasn't been recently, which makes me feel is he a guy that's going to be coming in? Ryan Fraser as well. It'll be interesting to see if those guys get a start on Saturday, and whether they've been banging the door down to kind of say, shall we, give me a chance? Like, can I show you what I'm all about? So I'm hoping that that's been the case, and that we see one or two surprises come Saturday 3 o'clock.
I think that's going to work in our favour against Palace, because you don't really do a lot of planning against Steve Bruce's teams, unfortunately. And I think that the fact that Graham Jones is actually going to be in charge could cause a bit of shock in it. So they're not going to. I don't think they're going to be. Not what to expect off a Graham Jones team. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. Obviously, as Pete mentioned, how we're going to set up and what, is he going to stick with a similar sort of line to what Bruce has been using? Or is he going to have his own ideas in mind, how he wants to set the team up, which personnel he wants to use and stuff like that. So it's going to be very interesting. I think that works in our favour because Palace will struggle to probably have a plan at how they're going to play against us.
Interesting. So great question there by Dan about where would they have this if they was going to build a new stadium, where would they put it? And both myself and Martin said Dublin, and I said Ireland. I tried to be more general, just being selfish, so we could get to more games. But yeah, I imagine it'd be somewhere in Newcastle. And yeah, I heard talk. I haven't seen any pictures, but I heard talk of this Zorro outfit.
Yes.
Fonseca.
Yeah, it actually links I think to. I'm not sure if it was after the Man City game that they won, that he came to a press conference wearing the Zorro outfit after the game. So look, if he's going to win games for us, I'd be more than happy for him to come to the press conferences on Sky. Imagine that, and turning up after the game wearing one of them for an interview with.
Well, the Tyson Fury of the managerial world in the Premiership.
Do you remember?
I think it's good. I think it shows he's got a personality and he's not all serious. And that's, ISM saying that Bruce was a catty person. I think that shows that Fonseca's probably going to be quite relatable as well. So I think it's funny, and I'm sure we'll get a picture up for one of the shows over the weekend if we do go down that line. But yeah, it is a class picture. It is a very, very good picture.
Now I know what I'm dressing up as for Halloween. Yeah, and just reminds me of I remember Jonas Gutierrez going around with the Spider-Man mask down his pants for weeks and weeks and weeks until he scored. Yeah,
I remember
great days. But I
still think it was funny he did it for the Premiership games, and even though he was told he wasn't allowed to do it because they were banned from the celebration, you know, he do the FA Cup or the Champions League, Championship. Sorry.
So again, just another thing to mention. After the away days show tomorrow at 7, we then we move. We're going to be on Aloi's channel from 8. So join us on that as well as we introduce ourselves again to the Saudis and say hello to everybody and tell them out loaded, I guess. But that's it for tonight, guys. Unless there's something else you want to say, because we'll be back on again tomorrow and potentially on Friday as well. And potentially on Saturday.
Yeah.
We see more of each other than we do of our families. We're all actually going to move in together because we're all getting kicked out. That
is Big Brother house. Yeah, loaded mag house.
I think we need one.
We'll say goodbye to everyone and we'll see you there, guys. Take care. Bruce is
gone.
Good
night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Get in there.